Therapy is something most children are undergoing these days. And it's good that the parents are able to identify what their child needs at a very early age. There are different kinds of therapies that we've come across, and one of the therapies that we did feature on Tantrums to Triumphs was art therapy. I came across a very unique therapy when I met Anya at a networking event, and I was really intrigued on what it was all about. So today we bring you Anya, who is an expert in play therapy. Let's understand what play therapy is all about in Tantrums to Triumphs at KydzAdda Banshankari today. Let's begin with what play therapy is all about and what inspired you to start it, Anya.
So there was no one specific thing that inspired me. I think I felt that a child's dignity was sort of being robbed of them. A child was being treated as only a child and not as a person in his own right. So play therapy gave me a way to help a child process their emotions, their selfhood in a creative manner. And play therapy is essentially where we use play as a child's language to help them process their internal world. So we believe that play is a child's language and toys are their words. So in the playroom, the child plays out their internal worlds, their thoughts, their feelings, and their experiences onto the entire playroom and onto their therapeutic relationship with me.
Okay, excellent. So, do you like observe the child when they play, how they play, what they use?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Of course, a large part of what happens in a play therapy session is me observing the child, tracking the child, giving the child observational statements so that the child feels anchored in the moment. We're helping the child feel held. And that observational statements like, I see that you're playing with the doll. I see you've chosen to place the horse in the sand tray. These are all ways in which we anchor the child in the moment. So beyond observing what the child is playing with and how they're playing, I am tracking their energies, the shift in their energies. Are they restless today? Do they seem dysregulated today? What is their nervous system feeling like in my nervous system? Are they able to maintain eye contact with me today? Are they able to name what they're feeling in their body? Are they able to connect it with an emotion? How long are they able to sustain a certain kind of play? How deep are they able to go today? A large part of my job is also reflecting back with insight. So I can see that you're smiling and your eyes are shining. That tells me when you're feeling happy. Because some children, when they come in, they tell me, I feel good, I feel happy. But if I ask them, how do you know you feel that happy? They can't really tell me how they know or why they know. So these are ways in which I help a child develop their interoceptive awareness.
Very interesting. Very interesting and fascinating. So, was there like a defining moment or experience that led you into this field?
Honestly, I don't think there was any one moment. I just remember very vividly as a child, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and it was always play therapy. It's just that I didn't know it was called play therapy. But I had a strong feeling that there was a lot of the human experience that was not fully expressed through formal language, and that we had so much more we could express about ourselves psychologically through symbols, whether it's movement or art or storytelling, just creative ways of expressing ourselves. And I think by the time I was about 18, it was my first internship where I discovered the term play therapy. And when I read about it, I discovered that, I wasn't crazy and I wasn't imagining things. And this does exist, and it's a formal offering, and I can specialize in it.
I think a lot of people wouldn't know that there was something that you can study to do play therapy. So it'll be really wonderful if you could tell our audience if someone wants to pursue play therapy. It's a very niche field. How do they go about it? How do they pursue it? If you can just give us a little bit of that information, that'd be cool.
I think that, things are a lot easier now. You can just Google play therapy courses. There are a few master's programs abroad that offer play therapy master's programs, and there are a few certificate play therapy courses. So I think it honestly comes down to what you're able to, work into your logistics.
Excellent. So before we go into therapy even further, who's Anya apart from her professional life?
I am honestly, in my personal life, I'm someone who values slowness, time in nature. I love reading. I love music. I am generally a reflective person, so I value a close knit group of friends and meaningful relationships.
Wow, that's really nice. And so, how do you differentiate play therapy from regular counseling?
Okay, so I'll put it this way, the reason we recommend play therapy for children is because play is a child's natural language. When a fetus is kicking in the womb, the baby is playing with the mom. When the infant is learning that he can move his limbs, it is through play. The instinct is play. And we know that a child's cognitive capacity for formal verbal language develops slowly. And even by the time they're about 4 to 7, they're able to say phrases like, I am sad, I am angry. And so as adults, I think we develop the idea that, okay, the child can now express what he wants, can ask for what she wants. But that's not true. Even though they're able to use a few select phrases, they're still not able to really tell you what's going on inside. So if you ever witness a child's play, you will see them playing out their internal worlds. You'll see them playing out their experiences. If you've ever watched a child play out a teacher, it tells you a lot about the kind of teacher that they have experienced, because children play out what they know. Right? So if a child has heard a bad word, that's when they're going to repeat that bad word in play. If they've had a really kind, understanding, sweet teacher, that's the kind of teacher that they are when they're playing. If they're seeing their parents fighting, you'll notice conflict that they're playing out in their play.
Wow.
And so to come back to your question, how is play therapy different from regular counseling? We are not directly asking the child questions. So how are you feeling? How was your day? What is upsetting you? We're giving a child a space to come in and be themselves. We are inviting them to show us who they are, what's going on inside of them. It is honestly one of the few spaces where a child gets to make all the rules, barring a few that I make just to anchor them to safety. But it is, I think, a very powerful part of play therapy is giving the child complete permissiveness and agency.
Okay. Very fascinating. Very interesting. So can you give us a simple real life example of how a session works?
Well, I'll say that play therapy, we usually recommend a minimum of 12 sessions. Each session is once a week of 40 minutes. And a play therapy session is always, in some sense, unpredictable.
Okay.
A child can come in and talk about how she's really upset about something that happened at school. And, she's looking down at the floor. Her voice is small and soft, and she's narrating the entire incident to me. And at the end of it, she tells me, and I ask her, I've heard you tell me how you feel. I'm wondering, what do you need? Because these are the ways we're developing emotional intelligence in a child. It is one thing to label a feeling, but we need to follow up the feeling with a need. And that hasn't been talked about enough. So then the child tells me, I just want to stop talking about it. I just want to move on. I've talked to my school, I've talked to my peers, I've talked to my parents, I've talked to you, and now I just want to let it go. And so then we stand up and I tell her, you know what, would you like to put on some music? Would you like to choose the music? And I invite you, if you'd like to shake it out with me.
Okay.
And so then she learns what it's like to claim space again and to, bring joy back to her body.
Okay.
So that's just one example. That's an uncommon example, I would say, for play therapy session because children don't normally talk so much, right?
Yeah.
She's a very emotionally intelligent child. But I'll give you another example. Recently, I had a child come in and he was really flustered. He came in and he said, I'm really flustered. And he named it. And he was like running around in circles. His eyes were wide. And he told me that, he'd started a cookie making business and he'd gotten his first order and he was really overwhelmed.
Nice.
And so we spent the entire session, where he named his feelings. He ran around the room to work, regulate his nervous system and get that restless energy out of his body. And then he went to the kitchen area of my playroom and he started playing out a restaurant. And, initially he said, I've gotten one order and these are all the things I need and I'm really overwhelmed, but I haven't gotten a second order. And if I don't get a second order, I'm just going to close down. I'm going to close my shop. And I reflected this back to him. I said, okay, you've been patient enough to wait for one client's order and you're letting me know that this is where your limit is. Your limit is 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, you don't want to wait for any more clients. You want to close down. And so in that moment, what I'm doing for the child is I'm anchoring him back to his nervous system. I'm giving him the information that he is giving me. I'm letting him know that I'm hearing him without any judgment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just translating what he's saying back to me. And it gives him the option of saying, wait, I feel heard, but this is not what I want. So their entire session, he continued to expand his window of tolerance. He kept saying from just 10 minutes, we ended up with, okay, I'm going to wait for a month. I'm going to see how my business goes. And then in the beginning, he was like, I'm only going to be here. And when people are walking by, they'll see my shop and they'll walk in. And then eventually he said, I'm going to try a few ads. I'm going to try a social media page, putting himself out there, learning that he can expand his window of tolerance. And it was really amazing to see that happen all in 40 minutes.
Oh, fantastic.
So to come back to your question, a play therapy session is unpredictable because the child leads it and the therapist follows.
Okay.
So we believe that a child knows what they need to hear.
Yeah.
And our job is to walk that line with them.
It's interesting you mentioned window of tolerance, and I think even adults need it.
Mm-hmm.
I understand, of course, kids are learning, and it's great that they're learning at the age that they are with you. But even adults too need that window of tolerance in a lot of things now, I guess. Nice. So, and as a play therapist, you have mentioned that there are some subtle signs that you look for when you're interacting with the child. They look down and talk, or they don't make eye contact. So, can you give us a few subtle signs that the parents should watch out for in their children?
So, definitely one subtle sign is stomach aches. A lot of children name a stomach ache because they can't name the emotion that they're feeling. And sometimes it's anxiety, it's a knot in the stomach, it's stress, it's fear, but they don't know how to name it and they feel it in the stomach. So they call it a stomach ache. Another sign I would say is, hitting, of course. And hitting happens because the child doesn't have the emotions to express themselves. So they're just trying to get their emotion, that energy out of their system by hitting. Similarly, if you were to hit a pillow. Another example I would say is if you're noticing increased tantrums more than usual, if you're noticing a child suddenly becoming withdrawn, if you're noticing more anxiety, I would say these are some signs that your child could benefit from play therapy.
Okay, great. So, how can the parents then differentiate between this is just a phase or this needs attention?
True. Yeah. So we all go through phases, children and adults, and that's a normal part of life. There are some things we're able to work out on our own, and then there are some that we need help with. I would say to wait it out and check, does this seem like a temporary behavior, a passing behavior, or is this something that is becoming persistent? Is it becoming intense? Is the emotional charge around this behavior becoming more intense? You'll notice it as parents if you ever see children fighting. Sometimes they're just being kids and they're just like fighting, and that it doesn't seem intense. But then sometimes the charge, the screaming, the anger can seem more intense. So when it seems persistent, when it seems like it's becoming more intense, when it seems to be disrupting your child's capacity to be their best selves, or just who they perform optimally in school, at home, with their peers, that's when I think that this is not just a passing phase. Perhaps something's up.
So, what are the most common concerns that you see in children today nowadays? What is very common across a lot of children?
Definitely anxiety, a lot of clinginess and school refusal. I'm curious to know if this is a post-pandemic phenomenon.
Yeah.
Besides that, sometimes difficulty falling asleep. Of course, when there is a new sibling in the family, that can lead to difficulties in attachment.
Yeah.
But overall, I would say it comes down to learning how to regulate the nervous system.
And you think the whole digital gadgets contribute to the anxiety and the impact on the nervous system, the number of gadgets that the children are being exposed to, watching YouTube or other channels? Do you think that contributes to it?
Most parents that I work with are very responsible in terms of having parental controls, having strict boundaries around screen time. There are certain hours on certain days, and of course they make a few exceptions if the child is sick, or there's a holiday, or there's a family event. But generally the parents whom I've worked with are quite good about having boundaries around screen time. So I don't usually get to interact with children who have difficulties with gadgets.
Okay. Oh, that's nice. That's very nice to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in the day and age when even the schools are introducing gadgets to learn.
True. Yeah.
It becomes very difficult for the parent to then separate the child from the gadget.
I actually have a client, a child who has never watched a screen.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
I think she's about 7.
Okay.
She's never interacted with a screen.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. So, do you think we are overprotecting the children or underprotecting them in this day and age?
I think it's a nuanced answer. I think that, of course, as parents, our instinct is to protect our child.
Yes.
And I think that it comes from a sense of wanting to be perfect, wanting to perfect parenting. And I think this generation's parents are really conscious about wanting to break previous parenting patterns, wanting to break unhealthy generational patterns. They themselves are going to therapy and are a lot more emotionally aware, very pro mental health. And I think that also brings with it, them putting a lot of pressure on themselves to get parenting perfect.
Yeah.
But that's why I think where we're doing children a disservice, because we're not setting them up for the real world by giving them a flawless attachment to their parents.
Yeah.
Children need a parent who is emotionally present and who is willing to repair following rupture. Because then we are helping a child learn that it's possible to co-regulate, it's possible to have healthy conflict in relationships. We are modeling what repair looks like in relationships, because conflict is always going to be part of even the healthiest relationships.
Sure.
At home, at work, at school. So I think by trying to be the perfect parent, we are overprotecting the child.
Can you think of something that, even a well-meaning parent
Yeah.
do certain things
Yeah.
that maybe they should not do?
Yeah, I think one is, having strict boundaries.
Okay, very interesting.
Yes.
I thought a lot of parents would and should have strict boundaries.
So a healthy boundary is a flexible boundary.
Okay.
So an example is if your child is never allowed to watch TV on a weekday, that is your boundary. But it's a Wednesday and your child is sick, and you know that them watching TV will give them a bit of comfort. And so you make an exception.
Yeah.
That's a healthy boundary because it's a flexible boundary.
That's very interesting. Strict boundaries or healthy boundaries. Which is better? Today we know that healthy boundaries good. It's good to be a little flexible and be conscious of what we are telling our kids to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that when we have flexible boundaries, it's so much more effective because it tells the child that they matter. They do have a say. They do have a voice.
Yeah.
Because I've worked with children who have no control of their lives in their lives at home, and I've seen the toll that it takes on them.
Yeah.
And I've seen parents we've talked about parents wanting to be perfectionists. I've also seen children wanting to be perfectionists.
Okay.
And that is just not setting them up for anything healthy. So even if you are holding a boundary and you feel like this is a non-negotiable, you've had one chocolate, a second chocolate today is just not going to happen. Even as you're holding your boundary, it's really helpful to just let the child know that they're being heard. You could say, I know you really want it. I can see that you're on the verge of tears. It's really important to you. I know. So what we're doing is we're holding the child, we're letting them feel heard, held, safe. So even though they're not getting the chocolate that they want, they're getting something else.
Yeah.
Which is far more valuable.
Yes.
And you're also strengthening that parent-child attachment.
Yeah. And it's a lot better than just saying no. You've had one already.
Yeah.
So
because that's so final, right? It doesn't, it's just like it ends the conversation. And we always have to be aware of the power dynamic in the child-parent relationship.
Yeah.
Because it can be really unfair.
Can be. And they do feel it.
They do feel it.
They do get hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they cannot reason like how we adults can. And it's very, it's unfair for us to expect that they understand our reasoning behind it. When we say you're allowed to have only one chocolate or you're allowed to have only 30 minutes of TV time. We need to also empathize with the fact that they don't understand the consequences of letting them do what they want to do.
True.
And show it to them that we feel sad for them, but at the same time, not be really harsh on them.
True. And I have met parents who want to be their child's friend.
Yep.
If you've watched Gilmore Girls and
Yeah.
it celebrates being your daughter's best friend.
Yeah.
And it always gives me a chance to even quote scenes from the show and tell you like, hey, no, these are the times it didn't work out.
Yeah.
So yes, but coming back to your point, yes, there are times when we have to look out for the child's best interest.
Yeah. Have any kids surprised you with how deeply they think, feel the emotions?
Absolutely. I remember this was years ago and I just never forgot it. I think he was a 4-year-old boy and he was in play therapy because his parents were fighting a lot and it was leading him to express a lot of anger.
Okay.
And he attended play therapy one day and somewhere in the middle of the session, he saw a doll in the playroom. And he was just intensely, in rapture with this doll. And he asked me, is she real? And he looked at her, he picked her up, he held her, and he's just staring at her very intensely. And then he just slaps the doll.
Ooh.
Yeah, he slaps the doll across the cheek and he looks at her some more, and then he quickly puts her down and then turns his back and, starts playing with something else. And he does this, he's trying to distract me because he knows that I'm going to give him my observational reflections and say, I see what you did, da da da. I wonder what, how the doll felt. I wonder how you felt hitting the doll. Um, and he doesn't want that. He doesn't, he knows he's been seen, but he doesn't want to talk about it, right? So that's one of the ways in which we're also holding space and observing the child's body language. Because as play therapists, we always want to move at the child's pace. We don't want to overwhelm the child. It doesn't matter if I have the answers to the universe. If you're not ready for them, if it's going to overwhelm the child, he's going to shut down or run away or not come back. So I'm not helping the child in that sense. But I later realized that the reason he slapped the doll was because he had been slapped by his mom. And when he asked me, is she real? It's because he saw himself in her, right? And that's why we talk about how play is a language and toys are words. And in the playroom, every toy that the child plays with, whether directly or not, is an extension of themselves, of their selfhood, of different aspects of their personalities. And so when he asked me, is she real? It's because he didn't want to bring her harm. He didn't actually want to cause her pain. And so that really stayed with me, that he wanted to play out the experience of being the one with the power. To hit. Remembering what it was like to be hit. All while keeping himself and the doll and the playroom safe. And that's a very impressive thing for a 4-year-old to be able to do.
Very deep.
Very deep.
Very deep for a 4-year-old.
Very beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And a lot of parents wouldn't understand these emotions because it is part of growing up as how we have been, everyone has been brought up. So how do parents then create a safe emotional space for their children? Conflicts will happen in any relationship. Children are going to be around. But how do they ensure that there is a safe emotional space for kids while living together as a family?
I think it comes back down to the same thing, being emotionally present and being able to repair following rupture. Being able to, I think the biggest thing, we talk about adults being regulated, right? But I think we have this idea that regulation means calm. Regulation does not mean calm. Regulation means I'm aware of what my nervous system is experiencing right now. I'm aware of the sensations in my body. I'm able to identify what I'm feeling in which part of my body and label that sensation, attach it to an emotion and label that emotion with a feeling. That is where we have enough information about ourselves. We have that self-awareness to then make an informed choice. And that's where that emotional intelligence comes from. That pause where we're able to choose. So regulation means essentially being in tune with yourself to the best of your capacity. Of course, we're not always going to be regulated. And it also means being able to be authentic. And I think I'm a big proponent of authenticity with your child. Even if something is really difficult to talk about, perhaps just saying, I would love to talk to you about this someday, but right now, I just don't think it's right yet. I know it might not seem clear. I know it might be confusing. I'm going to do my best to answer your questions to the best of my capacities. And when you're older, I'd love to talk to you about this some more. So I'm a big proponent of not trying to be a perfect parent, of being able to repair after rupture and being authentic. Just being emotionally present.
Yeah. Awesome. I think there's a lot of learning there for parents and what you have said. And I'm sure a lot of parents will sit back, think, reflect on what they're doing with their children, and also think about ways in which they can make that relationship with their child a lot better, a lot transparent, and friendly. So, if there is one thing that you would tell every parent to ask their child, one question every day to check on them, what would it be?
Do you want to play?
Oh,
Do you want to play with me? Would
okay.
you like us to play together? What do you want to play? You get to decide. Do you want me to play with you? Do you want me to just be here while you play and watch you?
Okay.
Do you want to tell me a story? Can you tell me a story about your day?
Okay.
Can you tell me a story about how your heart is feeling or how your heart felt at school? Do you want to, shall we make drawings of how our heart felt today
Mm-hmm.
when we weren't together, when you were at school, when I was at work?
Okay. That's a lot of questions for parents that you can talk to your child about every day and get a lot of information from them, understand how they're feeling, understand what they want, and what they expect of you. It was great talking to you, Anya.
I
There
had a
is a
lovely
lot
time.
of information. We didn't realize there was so much analysis and so much information that you can gather by just seeing a child play. And it has been a wonderful conversation. And I'm sure people can find you on Play Therapy with Anya.
Yes, I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, and my website as well is playtherapywithanya.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you so much.